no talking.
Okay.
Get out of my face, no talking.
Thank you.
Get out of my face, no
I'm
talking.
thank you.
Get out of my face, no talking. You guys, leave.
What
Go
are
back
you
to your
doing?
side.
Oh!
Go back to your side. I'm not...
You know, I'm no longer worried about Israel in the Middle East. I think Israel handily dispatched Hezbollah in Lebanon without barely firing a shot. They paged them all and blew them up and then took out the head of Hezbollah with a well-placed missile strike. Hamas has been largely decapitated, and Donald Trump says he wants to bulldoze it and build a Riviera. I don't know exactly what that means, but I don't think he's much interested in giving Hamas control over it. Other countries in the region are reluctant to go along with Trump, but he has his persuasive ways. We saw the King of Jordan visiting the White House the other day, and he seemed to go along with it. More importantly, the Saudis and other Sunni states in the Persian Gulf region seem to want to get back on track for Donald Trump's Abraham Accords. I see even the president of Lebanon, despite having a massive funeral for the Hezbollah leader over the weekend, said Lebanon is tired of fighting and dying in a war for Palestinians. I think the whole region is ready to move on. And because Donald Trump won, I think Israel will be strong. Had Kamala Harris won, I think it is true what Trump predicted, that Israel would have been denormalized, it would have had sanctions put on it, it would have become a pariah at the UN. I think there's a real chance that Israel could have crumbled, but I am now quite optimistic about Israel. I'm not the only one. I noticed that Air Canada has announced that they are going to start their flights directly again from Canada to Israel, which is a sign not only that they think it's safe again, but they think it's commercially viable. They wouldn't do that trip if they didn't think they could fill it. So the world is moving on. But what the October 7th, 2023 attacks revealed was not just Israel's weaknesses and strengths, but ours here in Canada. And I think I'm much more concerned, and I always have been, much more concerned about what's going on in Canada than in Israel, where I think they can take care of themselves. I'll give you the example of the neighborhood in North Toronto, the intersection of two streets, Bathurst and Shepherd, where innocuously enough, for the first year, a group of Jews and allies of the Jews would wave Israeli and Canadian flags at the street corner, and honkers would honk their horn in support. And they said they were doing that to remember the hostages. Remember, Hamas took more than 200 hostages, including 2 young babies. Well, in the last few months, pro-Hamas extremists have driven into Toronto from miles away and have set up a pro-Hamas counter demonstration right across the street where they shout obscenities, call up for genocide from the river to the sea. And most recently, they have bizarre reenactments of Hamas. You might recall I went there when they were reliving the final moments of the Hamas leader, Yahya Sinwar. They had someone wearing a mask in a chair covered with fake blood. It was so astonishing. I went there to see it for myself, and I was arrested, you might recall, because police said my mere presence there was upsetting to the Hamas protesters because I was Jewish. Here's a flashback of that.
Refusing to leave?
I'm refusing to leave.
Why?
Because I'm a Jew, I'm a citizen, and I'm your boss. And I don't leave because you say Jews aren't
Well, you know
allowed
what?
on the street.
In the interest of keeping peace here and public safety, you're under arrest for breach of the peace. Take a minute.
Good! Take this. I'm being arrested because I'm standing on the sidewalk in my city. I'm a Jew who lives in this neighborhood, and I'm being arrested because the police say that's the path of least resistance.
Well, that was my arrest. My friend David Menzies was arrested in the same place, again, for doing journalism. And the reason I mention that is that police, instead of moving these protesters, who are blocking the sidewalk at a minimum, but they do much more. They engage in assault. They utter threats. I'm not a big believer in hate crimes, but they absolutely, if they haven't committed hate crimes, there's no such thing. They've come in to a Jewish residential neighborhood and they're shouting on amplified loudspeakers anti-Semitism at passersby. If that's not a hate crime, I don't think there is one. But what's frustrating me is how the police have gone from keeping the peace to being concierges for the Hamas terrorists. They not only protect them, and they're, I would call it part of a crime wave, but they arrest anyone who gets too uppity about it. And again, that happened yesterday. Take a look at this video and see for yourself.
I'm gonna just go say hi to Officer Ibrahim. Peacefully, respectfully.
Hi, Salman. How are you?
Good. Small portion.
Get out of my face, no talk. Okay. Get out of my face, no talk.
Thank you.
Get out of my face, no talk.
thank you.
Get out of my face, no talk. You guys, leave.
What
Go
are
back
you
to your
doing?
side.
Oh!
Go back to your side. I'm not here to do this again all day with you guys. That's not every time with you. I'm done with you.
What
Get
are
back.
you doing here,
Get back.
Officer Ibrahim?
You know
I
what you're
just
trying
say to
do.
say hi to you. I just
Get
come
back.
to say
Get
that
back.
hi
You
to you.
smell
I am not.
marijuana.
I am
Get out of here.
peaceful. I am
Stop
loyal. I
on
don't do
the
anything
back.
wrong.
Back up.
Get back.
What's wrong with you? What's problem with your mental health?
Please don't block the
Control
driveway.
your anger, please.
Just over here for me, guys.
Please control your anger.
They're probably not on our
What's wrong
side.
with you? I just came to say hi to you, Officer Ibrahim.
Out of the driveway, right here. That's all I'm asking you. Out of the driveway.
I'm here.
There you go. Perfect.
I just came peacefully to say hi to Officer Ibrahim, okay? Okay? And I am respectful to you as well. Thank you for keeping jihadis safe.
That man is our friend Salman Sima, who is a Persian ally of the Jews. He's carrying the traditional Iranian flag, the one of the Shah, and he has a sign, you could say, saying Hamas are terrorists. He walked over from the side with the Jewish protesters to the other side, and I think he walked up to an officer, Ibrahim, who's a DEI hire in the Toronto Police Force, who didn't seem to like Salman Sima and immediately pushed him and pushed him again, pushed him back on the road. I'm not sure why he did that, other than he feels comfortable doing that. He feels comfortable protecting the Hamas protesters and shoving Jewish or Persian supporters of Israel, because he knows they won't riot and he knows the mayor doesn't have their back. What's so incredible is, and what was not shown in that video, is that yesterday the pro-Hamas protesters were carrying little fake baby dolls with them, symbolizing those Jewish babies that were murdered, strangled by Hamas, and whose bodies were finally returned to Israel last week. Imagine that. Imagine reenacting the strangulation of little baby children on the street, having a police escort for that, and when a Persian critic comes forward, the Persian is shoved back. Joining me now to talk about that is the man who filmed that footage, as far as I know, Daniel Bordman, citizen journalist, who joins us now via Skype. Daniel, good to see you again.
Thanks for having me back. Yes, for the record, yes, I was the one filming that particular video. So I was there that day, and that wasn't the first sort of incident we had with Officer Ibrahim. Like, again, he doesn't like Salman and I because Salman went to go counter-protest the regime's big, it's a big terrorist march for like the Ashura March, which is, sponsored and created by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Salman went there with a sign that said, like, respect human rights in Iran, and got attacked by the crowd. And then we went to the officers to report the assault, and then we were assaulted by Officer Ibrahim while trying to report an assault, and then we were screamed at and whatever. So this is like the beginning of Officer Ibrahim and our relationship. I know his badge number by heart now, 65697, I believe.
We were assaulted. It's on video. They pushed us to the road and we came to you.
Because you're disturbing the peace.
No,
we didn't tell you to leave.
I didn't say anything.
Leave. Leave where?
Leave.
Go somewhere else.
We have the right to be here. It's Canada. It's Canada.
What happened before this is Officer Ibrahim himself, and I have it posted on my Twitter, I quote tweeted that video showing him having a friendly conversation with Farah Ansari, who was arrested at Bathurst and Shepherd a few weeks ago for assaulting a police officer. So I have him at the tail end of a friendly conversation. Now, you will have to take my word for this particular incident, but I was looking over across the street and I said, is that Officer Ibrahim? And it was. And he came up with a big smile on his face and he approached Farah Ansari and they approached each other and they gave each other a big hug. They embraced and then they were having this cordial chat for a while. And Farah Ansari, I noticed her because I was in India when that happened. So I just noticed her because I had filmed her. That's also my Twitter. She was dancing with some stuffed animals, mocking the Bibas children. So she was one of the jihadis who was very happy the Bibas children was murdered, mocking the community over the Bibas children quite, publicly, let's say. And then I saw Officer Ibrahim come up, give her a big hug. And he's talking with her. So he's willing to have a conversation, a friendly conversation, with someone who's been charged with assaulting one of his literal colleagues, right? This is his police division. But if Salman Sima, a political prisoner, refugee, pro-Canada, comes up politely, respectfully, doesn't get in his face, says, hello, Officer Ibrahim, attacked before even the second word gets out. He put his hands on Salman, assaulted him. He put his hands on me. Like, I didn't say anything to him. He just started immediately grabbing me and shoving me and throwing me. It's very unstable. Either he's mentally unstable or he has a proclivity to side with the ideology of Hamas. These are the only two possible explanations for him. So why is he having a friendly conversation, smiling and hugging someone mocking the dead Bibas children who's been charged with assaulting an officer? And why is he so violent with a citizen journalist and a former refugee?
You know, if this were happening 50 years ago, if there were some anti-Semites who were coming down to pick fights in a civilian residential Jewish neighborhood, I think the cops would sort of give them a bum's rush. And if the cops didn't, I think local Jewish men would probably come out with their fists and sort of move. And 50, 100 years ago, there actually were sort of gangs. There was a riots in Christie Pits where there was Jews and others rioting against anti-Semites. 50 years ago, the idea that you could have foreign nationals come into the heart of a residential area of Toronto and shriek vile anti-Semitism and reenact the murder of babies with little dolls is unthinkable. It would be unthinkable. But what's so astonishing is that the police are there to protect those foreign nationals and their anti-Semitism. And one of the cops, as you pointed out, Officer Ibrahim, seems to be on friendly terms with them. This is happening every single week. And I don't think the Hamas side is trying to persuade anyone. They're so gross. They're so abhorrent. They're celebrating the murder of children. They're diabolical. I don't think they're trying to persuade anyone. I think they're doing something different. I think they're trying to plant the flag and say, we're the bosses here now. Yes. We can come right into the heart of a Jewish residential neighborhood week after week and say the most astonishingly gross things. You can't touch us. If you even come close to us, we'll have you arrested. And if you bring a Persian ally of the Jews, he'll be arrested just for saying hello to the police. This is the new rules now. There's a new sheriff in town. Your country does not belong to you now. And be demoralized because it's only going to get worse when every day more refugees from Gaza are shipped in, et cetera. I think the police presence there is actually the worst part of it.
Everything you said is correct. You're one of the very few people in the Jewish community, at least, who understands this. Often in the last year and a half, they would do something horribly obscene, like, march with armed resistance is the only way to, something, death to Canada. And a lot of Jews would say, oh, now people see who they are and we'll see them for their don't say anything. Just let people see this. Yeah, people see it. They don't like them, but they're not going to do anything because they're scared. You're 100% right. This is not about, they're not trying to convince anyone to come to their side. They're trying to assert dominance. It's a dominance culture, right? And then they're trying to recruit from their own. And yeah, maybe they're trying to pick up some ragtag communist 20-year-olds here and there. But it's a pure dominance thing. It's showing that your neighborhoods are our neighborhoods, and you are powerless to stop us. This is what the police have learned, right? So it's a combination of a lot of things, like, the depolicing and the fact that, even the good cops know that if they see a terrorist supporter beating up a Jew and they tackle the terrorist supporter and he scrapes his elbow and they put handcuffs on him, Olivia Chow will come out and start talking about police brutality. So the thing for the cops on that thing is just, okay, the safest thing is to do nothing. But then they're also taught conflict de-escalation. And they want to just de-escalate at all terms, right? Never enforce the law or do the wrong thing. It's just always de-escalating the situation. But what that ends up happening is the groups that are the most violent and radical end up gaining the power here because they have the threat of violence.
Right.
So in order to avoid the threat of violence, the police, to de-escalate, capitulate to the most violent group on the streets. Yeah. So if you're the Jewish side or the Hindu side or the Christian side, you're out there, the cops know, okay, they're not going to burn down my house if anything goes wrong. But if you're a jihadi, a Khalistani, or a Marxist, the cops know, these people start smashing and breaking things, so they get to get their way, because then it would escalate if I possibly enforce the law.
I mean, that's what the cops said when they arrested me
Yes.
a little while ago. They said your mere presence here could cause them to breach the peace. They knew I wasn't going to breach the peace, and they didn't claim I would. They said just being there was a problem because the other guys are excitable. That's just not the Canadian law. In fact, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that's not how it is. Let me ask you a question. I saw what happened to Salman Sima. He was pushed and shoved by that officer, Ibrahim, who didn't have to. He could have just ignored him. I mean, cops are taunted all the time. Part of the training of police is, can you control your emotions? One of the reasons drill sergeants shout at recruits when they're practicing with their firearms is to add a level of stress to firearms management. I mean, if you are a cop with a gun and people are screaming and swearing and shouting around you, are you going to freak out and just shoot them? Or can you keep your wits when those around you are losing theirs? And it's clear to me that Officer Ibrahim there could have just ignored Salman or laughed at him or said, sorry, not interested. Instead, he was provoked by him, went up to him, pushed him, frog marched him into the street. That's bad policing. That's a guy who can't handle himself. But it's actually assault as well. There's no reason for that. Are you or Salman considering suing the police in civil court for assault?
I mean, considering I can talk to Salman. I mean, my thoughts on the system is, why would I spend all this? Like, I know the system isn't fair. They're going to take a look at me, say I'm white. He's going to look at his name, say Ibrahim, and they're going to rule against me. Like, I know I have the law on my side. I know it was assault. I know I have rights, but I know I also don't really have rights in Canada, right? According to whatever intersectional matrix of law, I'm wrong, he's right, because my name is Bordman, his name is Ibrahim, so he wins. And it would be like, listen, in a fair country with laws that actually mattered and were respected by the judicial system, I take my shot for what's right. But I mean, the way I see it is, he's a bad cop. He's a danger to society and all that. But if I were to file any official legal complaint against him, like, why waste my time with a judge and a corrupt legal system who's just going to be filled with more Officer Ibrahims than they would be with. And if they're not Officer Ibrahims, they're going to be radical leftists who will just read Ibrahim versus Bordman and throw it out. So why waste time?
It's very depressing. Well, we'll keep an eye on things. I mean, that showdown happens every single Sunday. And it's astonishing how many resources the city of Toronto puts into defending Hamas protesters and arresting Jews who don't like it. It's quite astonishing to me. Thanks for taking the time with us.
Thank you.
All right, that's Daniel Bordman, citizen journalist. Stay with us. More ahead. Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.